All right. Good morning, everyone. We were having a great conversation about the weather. It is not warm in Minnesota right now, but it is warm in California. So unless you're a Californian that thinks 65 is cold. So anyway, but good morning and thank you for joining today on my December South Coast Veterinary Management Solutions webinar. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Melissa Tompkins Lewis, and I am the owner of South Coast Veterinary Management Solutions. Instead of managing one hospital as a consultant, I help manage many, which has been a great, fun experience for me. And I really appreciate the ability to provide you guys these webinars. And this job allows me to do a lot more things than I could never have done when I was managing just one hospital. So I appreciate that. I'm very excited today to have my good friend and longtime cohort colleague, bestie, ride or die buddy from, I don't know, 2008 or something like that. Andrea and I took our CVPM exam together. We've done a lot of things as managers in the time that we've known each other. So I'm very excited that she is on my webinar today. She's closing out the year, and I'm thrilled with that. For those of you who don't know, I do have a YouTube channel at South Coast Veterinary Manage 263. So if you would like to subscribe or publish or like, I can't remember all the things for YouTube. I haven't had any coffee yet. Can you tell? Sorry about that. So anyway, please follow my YouTube channel. I do still send emails. If you register to receive them, you'll get those from me regularly. But please feel free to reach out. And so I'm going to go ahead and let Andrea take over. And if also one thing I forgot, if you have questions, please throw them in the chat and we will answer them as we get them. And Andrea said she doesn't mind being interrupted, so feel free to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and just let Andrea take over. So go for it, Andrea. Thank you so much for coming today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Melissa. I'm super excited to be on your webinars and your YouTubes and all the things. And stay tuned. Melissa and I have an exciting surprise at the end of today to share with you guys. And I'm gonna try to figure out technology. Let's see if I can make this happen.
There you go.
How does that look? Yeah?
Great.
Okay. Fantastic. Yeah, Melissa said, pop your questions in the chat. If you want to unmute yourself and ask something too, don't hesitate. I'm happy to chat it up with you guys and answer questions as we go. When Melissa and I were trying to decide what to talk about today, I said, well, who's your audience? And she said, well, mainly managers. And I said, okay, good. Entry-level managers, senior level managers, leadership teams, like who are we talking to? And she's like, a little bit of both. I said, okay, you know what? I have this lecture that I like to give about leadership. And I designed the leadership lecture, this to gear towards leadership, but yeah, absolutely, Sandy. Love the soccer. I played for 15 years, so I have this little soft spot for soccer. But I designed this for building out a leadership team. But I tweak this a little bit to say, what if you're just getting into leadership and you don't really know what the hell you're doing? Because half the time we get into ourselves, like Dr. Barry, right? We get into ourselves in a position of leadership at owning a practice and we're like, what the hell are we supposed to do in leadership? I don't know, right? So I feel like oftentimes we get ourselves in a position of leadership by default, like, oops, Amy Newfield wrote that book, right? Oops, I became a manager. Oops, I'm in leadership. And so this really is for if you're an entry level, leader, or if, oops, you became a manager, or you could be, a seasoned and mature manager like, Sandy and Melissa and I. We've been in the trenches for 25 plus years now, and we still are learning new things all the time. So I try to gear this towards a little bit towards the entry level managers, but then also senior level managers, and even veterinarians or practice owners that say, I'm a leader and I'm still learning about leadership. So although this is about developing a leadership team, this is also about developing ourselves as a leader and how can we be better leaders in our practices, and quite honestly, transferring that leadership outside of our practices, and how are we just better leaders and becoming a better version of ourselves today than we were yesterday, regardless of where that is in our lives, as 80% women, as moms, as wives, as mothers, as sisters, as daughters, as whatever we are and whoever we are in our lives. So with that being said, let's get crack-a-lackin'. So put me in coach. I'm definitely a team-oriented person because I'm a sports buff. I'm started off playing soccer for 15 years, switched over to rugby when I got to college. I'm an NFL nut for sure. Green Bay Packers is my team. Go Pack, go. So I relate a lot of things to sports because I do feel like veterinary medicines, we're teams. We are absolutely, I stay away from the word family because not everybody has that. Ooh, look at that frozen face of mine. Not everybody has a healthy family. So oftentimes veterinary medicine, we have some people that come from some pretty messed up families. And so when we compare our practices to a family environment, I think, ooh, probably not such a good idea if someone on our team comes from a really messed up family life and we're comparing it to families, probably not a good idea to do that. If they come from a sexually abused home or just a bad family environment of some sort, maybe some kind of verbal or mental abuse, something like that, and we compare it to a family, that's probably not healthy for them. So I really try to stay away from saying it's a family environment and saying more to it's a team environment, right? We are a team. So put me in coach. We're a team. We need to learn how to develop our leadership teams as being a coach. I consider myself a coach from a practice management consultant and also just as a practice manager and as a leader, whether you are a licensed technician or a licensed veterinarian or a certified veterinary practice manager. Those are all in a position of leadership, whether you like it or not. You're a leader. And so as a leader, we're coaching. So that's kind of where this presentation came from. A short little stint about me. There's my QR code. If you want to scan, go takes you to my website, learn a little bit more about me. My podcast, that's COVID hair. You can tell it's might be a little bit longer now. Maybe I should update that picture. My podcast is about leadership, a little play on words there. It's called Positive Leadership Podcast. I have a new guest every other week that comes on, and it's about leadership, and we lean into some pretty tough subjects. Absolutely had no idea what podcasts were before David called me and said, hey, let's do a podcast. But now we have a huge following, and I like to say that we tackle some pretty tough subjects and have quite a bit of fun. I will tell you, don't listen to it if your kids are in the car. We're not always rated G. We try to stay PG though. I have been in practice for a lot of years, a lot of alphabet soup going on there after my name. I focus a lot on HR, but really more so with leadership teams. So this is kind of my jam. And yeah, that's good enough about me. Nope, we don't need to talk about that anymore. Anything I talk about today, I will tell you, I don't get paid to talk about any of the relationships that I have. So if I'm recommending a product or a service, it's because I believe in it. And it's not because I'm getting paid for it. So I think that's important for people to know that that I'm not here getting a buck for boy, Prezi is not being nice for a recommendation. Okay, so today's objectives, I'm really good about thinking outside of the box. So I work with a lot of different practices all over the country. It could be small animal, large animal, mixed animal. It could be rural in a little tiny podunk town in New Mexico, or it could be, a practice in downtown Manhattan. So thinking outside of the box is really something that I'm good at. But I say that because sometimes it's not one size fits all. And everybody knows that, right? With our practices, not one thing is going to fit in every single practice. And we've known that if you work at one practice and then go to work at another practice, it doesn't always work. So thinking outside of the box on how you can elevate your skills, or thinking about how you can use different ways or resources to leverage some support, utilize some other leaders in your practices, or utilize other leaders around you. And, you know, Sandy's been privy to the Excellent 11, right? Over the years, Sandy, you've been able to see how our group has grown, and how the managers group in Orange County has really used other leaders to, you know, iron sharpens iron, right? How we have leveraged each other and used each other leaders to grow our leadership skills, and how we can develop internally other employees to become leaders within our practice, and how we can get results that way. One thing I learned as a single mom being a practice manager is it takes a village. Like, holy cow, to raise a kid being a single mom, I needed help. I needed all kinds of help, right? It wasn't just like my mom that helped me. I mean, I had people picking up and dropping off. I had other moms helping. And of course, I helped where I could, like other moms. Like, we all tag team with each other. I had a roommate that was in college that was also a single mom. I ended up living with her. She's now a veterinarian. I lived with her for 15 years, and the two of us raised our boys together. It takes a village to be a single mom. And as a practice manager, I realized that it takes a village to be a practice manager. You cannot be a practice manager and have, or practice owner, and think that you're going to get through it by yourself. It's just not going to happen. There's no way. We need a leadership team that is going to help us manage the practice and everything that's going to go along with that. All the hats that we wear as a practice manager. Oh, holy cow. And right, don't be on an island, because as a practice manager, a lot of times we want to bitch about our practice owner. I love you, Dr. Barry, but there's days that you drive us crazy. And we can't bitch at Dr. Barry because that's who we want to talk about. So we can't talk to our subordinates because that's not appropriate, right? And then there's days that I just want to wring that girl's neck that works for me. But I can't bitch at our staff because that's not appropriate. And I'm not going to waste Dr. Barry's time because she's got other things to do. So who do we talk to, right? We don't have that peer as another manager. So we shouldn't bother our spouse with that kind of stuff because they're like, want over it. So we need to have other people that we can talk with. And so that's where you call your tribe and you say, oh my gosh, meet me for a cocktail, because you know, and sometimes those cocktails are virtual. And I've had plenty of virtual cocktails with my girlfriends. That is for sure. About what, every 6 weeks, we get on the phone and, well, on a Zoom call and pop a cocktail. And it's like, let me just tell you, girlfriend. So that's okay too, right? Whatever that looks like. So don't be on the island, find your tribe. And it just happens to be our tribe grows and multiplies. It's like gremlins and water and after midnight. I don't know. We grow. And that's a good thing. We should grow. It takes a village. Boy, I don't know what's wrong with because I think I keep hitting the chat. And when I hit the chat, then I have to go back. Okay, I'll try to stay out of the chat. Okay, so this is an example of an organizational chart. And Fred Flintstone and Barty Rubble are the owners. And this is a 2-practice organizational chart. We have, excuse me, Slate Animal Hospital and Bedrock Animal Hospital. And for those of you that are OG, know where I'm going with this. Wilma Flintstone, she's the Director of Human Resources. She's a CVPM. And Betty Rubble, she is a CVPM, and she's the Director of Business Services and Payroll Specialist. And so 2 different practices, right? We have one organizational chart, and it just lists the associates, it lists the practice managers, and then it lists our technical staff, our CSR staff, kennel staff. But the important thing about this organizational chart is at the bottom, there's this legend. And it says on there, let's say, for example, payroll-related concerns, deductions, bonuses, reimbursement, direct deposits, and payroll checks. We're going to go to the payroll specialist. So if we have a question and we say, you know what, I changed bank accounts and I need to turn in my new direct deposit form, who am I going to go to? I'm not going to go to the practice manager. I'm not going to go to my supervisor. I'm going to go to the payroll specialist. Who's the payroll specialist? Well, if I look at the org chart, it tells me it's Betty Rubble. I'm going to go say, hey, Betty, can I get a new payroll form and give you that payroll form? Because if I would have gone to the lead tech, or if I would have gone to the practice manager, or if I would have gone to the practice owner, I wasted all their time and my time when I should have just gone to the damn payroll specialist like I should have, right? So the organizational chart is a great tool to have in your practice, but I will tell you it's worthless unless you have an organizational, or excuse me, unless you have a legend at the bottom that tells us how to use it. So I encourage you to evaluate your org chart and say, does it have some type of legend that tells us not just who the people are, but at the bottom, where to go, right? For what are we supposed to go to the associates for? What are we supposed to go to the lead technician for? What are we supposed to talk to the owner about? There are certain things that we should and shouldn't be talking to, say the purchaser, the inventory specialist about, and there's things that we should or shouldn't be talking to the manager about, right? The manager could give two hoots about the fact that we're out of Bupe. Go talk to the purchaser, go talk to the inventory specialist. So I really like the fact that there's a legend at the bottom of our org chart. It really helps the team understand who they're supposed to be going to. Okay. Who's on your leadership team? There's lots of different layers to an organizational chart. If you have a deep organizational chart versus a flat organizational chart, if you have a very flat organizational chart, it might mean that you don't have a very big team, a team of 5, or it could be that you don't have a lot of people that are helping you. That might mean that you need to consider making more people on, adding more people to your leadership team and making that org chart a little bit deeper to get some help. I've heard a lot of great titles, I've made up some awesome titles. I had a lobby concierge one time at one of my practices. Who's got a lobby concierge, right? Lot of great different titles. It really boils down to what's their job description say. Really, that's the most important thing is what are they doing? What are their tasks tell us? That goes back to what's the legend say on the org chart. How are they supporting the leadership team? How are they supporting the practice? How are they supporting the team? Ultimately, how are they supporting the owner? What are they offering to the practice? So let's talk about why are you on that org chart? Why are you in the position that you're in? Hopefully as a leader, that's why you're listening today, is in leadership position. And I got these with a little bit of Google help. Leadership is the art of motivating a group of people to act towards achieving a common goal. So I hope that the common goal would be something that is like advancing veterinary medicine or advancing pet healthcare or advancing skill development in our practice, right? We hope that our common goal is one aligned with our practice owner's goal or our practice goals that we have are on the same page. Have had conversations with our practice owners so that that common goal is truly in common with what our practice owner is. If we have not had a discussion with our practice owner about what those goals are, we probably should be, because we need to be making sure that when we're motivating our team towards that goal, it actually is in common with our practice owner, right? We should be making sure that those goals align with our practice and our practice owner. So I felt like that was very good. Thank you, Susan Ward, to point out here that our job as leaders is to make sure that we're motivating our team, whatever that motivation might look like, but that we're motivating and pushing and encouraging them towards something. But what are we pushing them towards? Right. And that goal better align with it really needs to align with what our practice owner wants to be pushing them towards. And I see sometimes that we are pushing them towards something that's not what the practice owner or what our practice total overall practice, overarching practice goals are. So make sure that those are aligned. And that kind of ties in with directing workers and colleagues with a strategy to meet the company's needs, right? We want to make sure that those common goals, they're meeting the company's needs. And the ability of the individual to lead or guide individuals, teams, or entire organizations. Like that's what we're doing, right? We're leading, we're guiding, we're motivating. One of the ultimate outcomes of any conversation, ultimately the performance review, our goal of when we lead those is to motivate and encourage a team member, right? So our outcome from a performance review or a coaching conversation is to encourage and motivate a worker. So when we have one-on-ones, when we have a performance evaluation, a coaching conversation, our goal is to motivate and encourage. Ultimate goal, always motivate and encourage. So when I walk in, I'm thinking motivate and encourage. In the middle of my conversation, I'm thinking motivate and encourage. When I summary, motivate and encourage, right? I'm walking out. Hey, are you motivated? Are you encouraged? Like, hoorah, go team, right? Always be thinking motivate and encourage, right? Whatever that common goal to meet those company needs.
Sandy said educate and elevate. I like that one too.
Yeah, the ease. Yeah, the ease. So some of our qualities that we can be looking for, at least, hopefully that we recognize or have been recognized within us, often include some of these things that are listed here: honesty, accountability. They're not necessarily things that we're looking for as like, so can you do payroll? Right? Hey, so do you know how to do accounts, receivable, accounts payable? Hey, do you know how to, I don't know, right? Marketing. Do you know how to do marketing? Like that's not what we're looking for in a manager or a leader. And notice right off the bat, I said in a manager versus a leader. I think of a manager as somebody who can check boxes, right? And a leader is going to have these types of traits here. And I think that when I'm hiring, I can teach anybody how to place a catheter. I can teach anybody how to answer a phone, right? I'm looking for the capability and adaptability and aptitude to learn, right? Do they have an aptitude to learn how to place catheter? Do they have the aptitude to learn how to answer the phone? So when I'm looking to hire, do you have some of these character traits that I want you to have? Do you have passion? Right? Do you have, are you honest? Did you lie on your, oh my gosh, what's that thing they fill out? Application. Who didn't have coffee now? They lie on their application. I'm probably going to ding you for that, right? I mean, it's not necessarily, I'm going to, put you in the trash, file 13 and move on, but you're probably going to get a red flag for that, right? Do you have some courage in a tough conversation to speak up? And when I ask you some open-ended questions, are you going to have transparency and sincerity when I ask you a difficult difficult question? Are you going to give me some of that transparency and be a little honest about your answer? Or are you going to, bullshit your way through it? I'm going to tell that answer was. scripted, right? So thinking about how we're and who we're hiring, we're going to be able to teach the skill set theoretically, right? They have the aptitude to learn that. I can't teach somebody to be honest. I can't teach somebody, right, some of these other skills. So thinking about how it is that when we're interviewing for these soft skills instead of hiring for the hard skills. So we'll skip this. We won't necessarily put this in a poll, and just more ask yourself, are you interviewing for these soft skills as well as the hard skills? Not that they're not important. We need somebody, that a technician or a CSR that can do these things, or, obviously we can't always say, okay, we hire somebody completely green. I'm not saying to disregard them, but be thinking about, do you have behavioral interview questions that we're interviewing for some of these essential skills as well as these hard skills? And I'm happy to share my behavioral interview questions with anyone. I feel like they're super important that we should be asking them. And if you have some questions that you really like that are behavior-based interview questions, open-ended questions, pop them in the chat for people to read. And share. I think sharing is super important. Sharing is caring. So if you've got some, put them in the chat to share. Okay. So here we go. Get outside of the box, right? So you've either got promoted and you're a brand new manager. So congratulations. Now what the hell are you supposed to do? Or you are a seasoned manager and you're looking at just promoting somebody into a leadership position, either a new supervisor or a new lead or a new assistant manager. Somebody maybe new on your leadership team, maybe you just promoted maybe a purchaser or inventory manager, something like that, right? So thinking about who are your key leaders, players, and influencers. How do we develop the knowledge, skills, and ability, or KSAs? And what do we do with them now that, we're got them in a leadership position? And this doesn't necessarily have to always be somebody on your leadership team. You can be thinking of this as just developing employees as well. But who are the key leaders, players, and influences? How we develop KSAs, and what in the heck are we doing with them now? Melissa, I will side note, when I was going back and forth with the chat and my Prezi, it was kind of messing with the Prezi. So I'm going to let you monitor the chat.
Sounds good.
So thinking about who's asking for more, who's got their hand raised, who's always saying, hey, and sometimes this isn't always a verbal, where they are like in your office, like, hey boss, what do you got? Hey boss, what do you got? Sometimes this is for, I always think of like this CSR who basically wears roller skates to work and runs circles around everybody else. Maybe that's been there quite a while, maybe a year or two, or longer than anyone else, and just knows the job. Maybe just is really good at their job, or has been a CSR a while, maybe. Someone who just is good. And they're the one that has like 2 calls on hold, is on the phone, answering an email, prepping a chart, and checking out a client, and is like, has it all handled. Doesn't even sweat. And I'm sure you guys have seen that person handle things and is like, yeah, I got it. Keep it coming. Keep them coming. And is like, handles it all before lunch and is like, yeah, I'll be back in just a minute. And like comes back from lunch, I'll refresh, and like does it all again. And you're like, oh my gosh, this person's amazing. I wish I could clone them, right? That's the one who's asking for more, right? Clocks out on time and still like gets it done. Maybe they make a mistake. Like that's the one, right? That's the one who's asking for more. That's ready for more. And you can start with some small tasks that are leadership type tasks and say, okay, are they ready for something more? That might be something like, hey, I'm going to give them accounts receivable and see if they're ready to take that project on. And give them a little bit. It might be a technician in treatment that you're saying, hey, I'm going to give them the DEA logs or the cures reports and say, hey, I'm going to give this task to them and see how they do with it. It may be giving them inventory. A lot of practice managers start with something like an inventory project, and it's like putting their toe in the water. And it's their first major project that they've done. That's a leadership management style project. And then next thing you know, they're practice managers. Within the next 6 months, they've become a practice manager. So thinking about how you can start with a baby step with them and then building them up from there. And the same thing with us. When we're in a leadership position, how do we start with something small, especially as practice managers, when we say, okay, I know there's a lot we need to do, and it's like drinking through the fire hose. How do I tackle all of this? Because I know there's more that I should be doing. How do I tackle all of this and still and learn what I'm supposed to be learning? There's so much. I'm still picking up things that I should have been doing as a practice manager that I never even knew I was responsible for, right? And I'm like, oh wow, when did that hit the radar? Like, whoops, I missed that, right? So thinking about how you can learn small things and say, okay, I've got this. Let's go on to the next one, and to the next one, and to the next one, and feel confident that you're doing it right. Being able to identify some of those traits, characteristics of I've got it, I've accomplished it, I feel good about it. A lot of those overachievers that want to take on more, but that don't drown through that process, that allow things to fall through the cracks, or that continuously make mistakes because they take on too much. Oftentimes those ones need to be reeled in. And I used to be one of those. A lot of times leaders, we're in the position we're in because we don't know how to say no. We always say yes. And before you know it, our plate is too full, overflowing, things are spilling from the side. Sometimes that has to be coached to say, hey, when your plate's full, you really need to be able to say, my plate is full, I'm willing to take more, but then we're going to have to either delegate to downhill, or we're going to have to take something off. Because if I don't do that, something is going to break, either me or the plate. Something's going to fall through, something's going to either not get done right, or something's is going to make a mistake somewhere. So I'm willing to take more, but something's got to give somewhere. So sometimes those people, including myself, have to be coached. And that took a while for me to learn that, to say, I will absolutely take more, but something's got to give. And I say, I had to learn that. I'm still learning that. I'm still learning that there's times I need to say no, or give a project to Melissa because I took on too much, and I have to give her a client and say, Melissa, I took on too much. Are you willing to take a client? There's too much on my plate right now, and I think this would be a good fit for you. And she's absolutely taken clients for me when I have like eyeballs up to here and I'm drowning. So there's still times in my life that I'm like, oops, said yes too many times. So it's yeah, overachiever. Right here. Here's one. Guilty. I 100% admit it. Still learning that. What kind of support are we offering? This is one of those things where I feel like the delegation, or you're going to learn this, you got it, go ahead, let me know how it goes, and then they turn in something to us and you're like, this crap. Well, did you support them? Did you train them? Or did you just say, hey, guess what, you're doing accounts receivable, or hey, you're doing the schedule, good luck, and then they give it to you and you're like, that's crap. Well, what kind of support and training did you give them? That's really setting them up for failure, not setting them up for success. When we do things like, hey, you're going to be doing accounts receivable, or can you take over the team or the team schedule, or you're doing inventory. This is not learn by trial and error. We've got to be able to support them, and supporting them looks like giving them some training. It's sitting next to them saying, this is how I did it. You don't have to do it my way. Okay. You guys have to release that. You don't, the way I did the staff schedule was with Excel. There's actually better ways to do that now. Like when I work and went to work is way better than with Excel. I had a really hard time giving that up. I still do the staff schedule for some hospitals, and I still do it with Excel because that's the way I learned. I had to give it up and like learn that when I work is a way better, system. So giving that over to somebody is saying, okay, this is how I do it. You may have a better way of doing it, and I'm going to relinquish that to you. May be difficult. And so but the outline of my expectations are, this. The schedule needs to be posted by the 15th of the month for the following month for 30 days, right? Okay. I need it by, say the 10th to look at it, to make any changes, and then we'll post it by the 15th, right? So it's the 11th. You gave it to me yesterday of December. I'm going to look at it, see if there's any need changes, make some edits. And then for December 15th, it's going to post for January, for all of January, right? And then maybe, I'm going to check in with you every Friday. I'm going to check in with you for the first 6 months and say, how's it going? Can I help you? Can I support you? Maybe the first 2 months, I'm going to do it with you, right? Maybe the first month I do it and you watch, and the next month you do it and I watch, right? So that's what support is going to look like. And maybe 6 months down the road, we're going to have a conversation of, do you want to continue doing this, or you want to give it back to me? Right? Doing the staff schedule, some people love it and some people want to set it on fire. I hate it. I am always going to delegate that out. I don't want it back. Some people are like, no problem. It's super easy for me. By all means, you take it. So thinking about how we're setting them up for success, what are we doing to support them? Ask them what support looks like. Right? Do they need more training? What does training look like? And then what are your expectations? What does done look like to you? Brene Brown talks about defining done. What does your done look like? And if that's an expectation we need from our practice owner or from our manager, is asking our manager, I am taking on this project. Can you please define what a done would look like to you? What is your expectation of this project? What's your deadline? What does a finished product look like? What resources do I have? Is there a budget involved? Can you tell me a little bit about what it might look like when this is finished? I'd like to know what my parameters are, right? That goes with inventory, right? Do I have a budget? If there's things that are on back order, if there are things I can't get, how much time should I be spending on it every week? So can you give me a little bit of parameters? What does success and what does failure look like? When we run out of things, how often can I run out of things? How much time per week can I be spending on these things? There are so many ways to train leaders. I mean, it's endless. Some of them are going to have a financial impact, and some of them will have a hard cost and a soft cost. Me sitting next to somebody is not going to cost me anything except for my time, and my time is going to cost the practice time. But there's not necessarily going to be there. I'm a hard cost where we're sending them to a conference, right? That's going to be a different hard cost to the practice. So continued education, that's going to be a hard cost. Meetings, that's a cost internally. We're there. Job descriptions, there's no cost in that type of here's your expectations, here's your job description, right? Having a mentor, again, there's no cost involved with having a mentor for some of them to talk to. Outlining expectations, that needs to be done so that they understand, or we understand what needs to be done. I am huge on making sure that when we are talking to our team members is they are not going to meet our expectations if we don't tell them what our expectations are. If you tell them they need to show up on time, they are not going to be on time unless you tell them what that time is. So is 8 o'clock on time at your practice for a shift? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe 8:15 is if you have a 15-minute leeway policy. Maybe 5 minutes to 8 is on time to you. But just because their shift starts at 8 does not mean that they're going to meet your expectations unless you let them know is 5 minutes early on time or is 15 minutes late on time. Is being ready to in their workstation, ready to go with their breakfast already eaten and their coffee already drank. Like, what is on time to you, right? So outlining expectations is so, so important when we're expecting our team members to meet those expectations. Communication is key there. And there, Brene Brown, define done. What does that look like? Delegating appropriately. I feel like when we talk about delegating, we don't do it appropriately. So when you do it appropriately. That is, again, going back to like telling them what you're going to do and then showing support, checking in, giving them some training and owning it back if you need to. A lot of people have heard this before, but the show one, do one, teach one method, I'll do it 1 month, you do it the next month, and then we go from there, right? So that's show one, do one, and then you show me how to do it. Support and follow up, communicate, huge, huge, huge. Review the progress and then evaluate afterwards, right? Did you meet my done? Did you meet my expectations? And then give some feedback there. I love the when I give the analogy of the Home Depot bucket. I have a big, huge 5-gallon bucket. If I could come up with a bigger size bucket, I would. But the big, huge 5-gallon Home Depot bucket, as all the things that I do, right? I should come up with like the big trash can, the big, trash can you drag out to the street on trash day. That's more like what I do. Everything is in there. And so you pull them out one by one and you say, do I have to do this or can somebody else in my practice do it? If I have to do it like payroll, then I got to keep that because payroll is sensitive, right? Not everybody can do payroll. So that goes in the trash can. Again, probably not a good dumpster fire. And it goes back into the dumpster fire. But if you pull something else out, like the team schedule, I don't have to do that. I could delegate that to somebody else. Maybe the front team lead could do the front schedule and the treatment team lead could do the treatment schedule, right? So do I have to do this? I don't have to do a team schedule. I could delegate that. That elevates another team lead, another team member, because they're actually going to get to do something that typically would be on a manager's desk or a practice owner's desk. So that elevates them in the practice because they're getting to do something, right? Getting to do something. So that's a way of being able to delegate tasks and coaching them to do something different. I say younger generation because I'm not in that generation at all, but learning to manage different generations. The Gen Y and Gen Z generation are very, very much want autonomy over their work. And so giving them special projects and tasks, they really, really appreciate having their own tasks to do. They want us leaders right next to them when they do it. So in case they have questions or concerns, but giving them different projects that they can do on their own, they really like that. And it gives them buy-in to the practice and it gives them loyalty to the practice because they own and have autonomy over something. So the more we delegate downhill, it will develop those leadership skills within them because of the fact that they have autonomy over their work and have their own projects and tasks. So it's a way to be able to develop your team's leaders, internal leadership skills within themselves. And also it's a two-way street because it will build loyalty for those younger millennials, even younger than millennials, the Gen Y and the Gen Z. They really appreciate having autonomy over their job descriptions and their tasks. Surrounding support, there are some amazing, amazing support that our industry professionals can provide us. There's one out right now that I'm in love with, and I'm going to butcher Jared's company name. Is it, Melissa, do you know how to say it? Is it Pixis or Sandy?
I don't know.
I think it's Pixis. And I avoid saying it when I have to out loud because I'm pretty sure it's wrong. Jared's company is amazing. I just say Jared's company because it's amazing. But check that one out online. I use @Dove at a lot of my practices. PDU is fantastic. Care Credit's got some great modules, but use them. I think of my reps as being on my payroll. When their companies do good, they do good. And in turn, our team members do good. Anytime I have a new CSR or a new vet assistant that's learning vaccinology, I call my BI rep and I'm like, hey girl, can you take, my new CSR out to lunch? Here's our standards of care for our vaccines. And can you do some vaccine training with them? And they're like, absolutely. I don't have time for that. Right. My BI rep is like, sure, I'll do it. Right. And our new CSR is like, oh my gosh, I got to go to lunch with the rep, and they learned all kinds of stuff about vaccinology. And I'm like, I forget which one's adjuvanted, and which one's not, and which one's, I don't know. I forget. I can't keep them straight. Right. Great way to do some training. So there, just know that have conversations with your reps. Pause time, Connie, she does such good client service training. Oh my gosh, Sandy's like, yep. Amazing client service training. Utilize your reps. They are literally like extension of your training manual. Like you would not believe. Can't say enough there. Okay, time to run some plays. Woo! This is the good stuff, right? Your department meetings, your all practice-wide meetings. If you're not having strategic planning sessions with your senior leadership and your practice owner, you need to be. Your senior leadership meeting and your practice owners should be having strategic planning meetings at least quarterly and absolutely yearly about where you're taking your practice. A practice development coach, something like Melissa or I, absolutely. Leadership meetings weekly, if not monthly. If your practice owner or practice managers don't have business mentors, I have a business mentor. Get one. They're key to making you successful in what you do. Like my mantra, 100% of my job is to make you better at your job, right? So thinking about where you are running plays, right? What are you doing to make your team better? How are you educating and elevating your ease, right? Your team. When are you honing in on making sure that you're recognizing where there's obstacles, taking opportunities to train, and then honing in on that, right? That is your opportunity to do that. Not when it's, hitting the fan during a busy day, right? Or right in the middle of, crazy surgery day. Take a breath and have a meeting and talk about it, strategize about it. Where are you going to take the time? What are you going to be focusing on during the week? What is your focus this next week going to be on? That's where the communication really comes in, that you guys can take a break and focus and have those discussions. So super important. I'll quickly go through this because we are running low on time. Brene Brown's Dare to Lead, the task approach. Who owns the task? Do they have authority to be accountable? I feel like the authority is more so and the accountability piece are super important there. Are they set up for success? Do they have the time, resources, and the clarity? And do we have a checklist of what needs to happen to accomplish it? I like the task approach there. That's a Dare to Lead thing. This could be internal. Again, how confident your team structure allows for delegation and development. Think about that. How confident are you that your current team structure allows for those two things, delegation and development. And that may be because you don't have anyone to delegate to. And I would challenge you, why not? And if you don't have time for development, why not? Why is that not a part of your company culture? And what do you need to do to change that? Right? Do you even want to change that? So be thinking of those two things and internally and focusing on, is that something that you want a part of your company culture? If not, why? Right? So think about those couple things. What allows for those delegation and development to happen at your practice? And maybe that should be something that you talk about at your next leadership meeting. Maybe the next step is hosting a leadership meeting. I love doing M&M rounds. Morbidity and mortality rounds is something that human hospitals do on a regular basis. I like hosting morbidity mortality rounds in my leadership meeting, and not because a patient dies. It could be because there was a break in policy. It could be because there was a client complaint. It could be because we identified something that just didn't go well. So we had a leadership meeting on Wednesday. Was that yesterday? Oh, gosh, feels like a month ago. I had morbidity and mortality rounds with one of my leadership teams just yesterday. We went through, we identified the obstacles. We looked for some solutions. We went back, did some discovery, bunch of discovery meetings, and we went back and leadership team then came up with some, evaluated it all, and decided we came up with a solution of what we're going to do. And next week we'll be implementing that solution. So thinking about, okay, this is happening. Why is it happening? We got to do some discovery, right? It could be because I always think of like the pet went home with a catheter. Oh no, right? Like that always happens. So why? Do you have a protocol in place? Well, did one person fail in that protocol? Everybody points fingers to the one person who took the dog up front. Well, I don't think so. I'm pretty sure that there was like 5 other people involved with letting that dog like get out of the cage and go up to the front, right? So everybody's solution is to put red vet wrap on that dog, right? Because it got a catheter. So thinking about like, is there enough training around that? Do we need to write up that poor one person that did it, or do we need to poke holes in the training? Maybe there is no protocol, so maybe we just need to start with write the stinking protocol and do some training. So that's a great case for morbidity and mortality rounds for leadership to dissect that and figure out what needs to happen. Don't change the protocol. Think about what needs to happen if that protocol is in place. Maybe we don't need to change it. Maybe we need to do some retraining, right? Maybe we do, maybe we don't. Maybe we need to have some more accountability at the practice. So that's a morbidity and mortality round exercise for leadership teams. Great book, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. That's by Patrick Lencioni. It is a great book. It's a story, and at the end, he goes through his pyramid. The pyramid's great: trust, conflict, commitment, accountability, and results. So we'll go through those real briefly as we wind down or wind up, wind in, winding somewhere. Do you trust your team? That's a loaded question. What are you trusting your team with? And does your team trust you? Again, another loaded question. If you guys have done trust falls before, those are rough. Those are hard. Yeah. So do you trust your team with your life, with your patient's life? If you're a practice owner, Dr. Barry, do you trust your team with your practice? Yeah, vice versa. Does your team trust you? So think about that question and ask yourself with what, right? Does your team trust you, and do you trust your team with what? And kind of go through that list there: confidence, intentions, follow through all those things. What do they trust you with? And vice versa. What do you trust them with? I think there's a lot of different things they may trust you with and you trust them with, but not everything, right? With trust comes vulnerability, and with vulnerability comes trust. Those are without one, with one you get the other, and with one, with what, yeah, those are both. Yeah, however that goes. It's really hard to be naked in front of other people, right? That's vulnerability. And with that comes trust. So it's hard to earn it, and then it's once you earn it and you break it, it's really hard then after that. So be thinking about how to build it. Building trust takes time. It's not delivered overnight. So those are things that we can do that take time, is to build trust with team, but it takes vulnerability, it takes credibility, which takes transparency. Goes back to honesty, right? Some of those things, and why we are leaders in the first place is one of those first slides. With trust then comes a little bit of that healthy conflict. We can have conflict. I think what happens is in veterinary medicine, we tend to shy away. Probably anything, we tend to shy away with conflict. We're not good with it. Conflict is fine if we learn to have healthy conflict. We can lean into conflict when we learn to have healthy conflict. But with healthy conflict, we have to have trust that there's psychological safety. We're not going to get lit up. That's not healthy conflict, right? So we have to be able to discuss and resolve instead of having heated debates, right? So we want to be able to say, hey, doc, that dose doesn't sound right to me. Is this okay? Can you double check that? And not feel like we're going to get lit up, right? I need to be able to come in and say, hey, doc, Mrs. Smith is on the phone. You told me to tell you when she calls, right? Or, hey, technician so-and-so, you do the inventory. Did you know we're out of this this product, and not get my head bit off because what's on back order is not my fault, right? So we need to be able to have these types of conversations and not feel like we're stepping on each other's toes or getting into this conflict, unhealthy conflict, right? And so there's some rules around that. And sometimes we have to put those rules down and baselines down and have mediators around those conversations until we learn how to have those conversations so that we can have healthy conflict and say, hey, this is what I know. This is what I know. Okay, well, can we come together? And then through healthy conflict, have good open communication. So do you believe your team practices healthy conflict and open communication? Right? Or maybe not. Sometimes there's drama. And sometimes maybe when that drama comes or those unhealthy conversations come, it's when emotions are at their highest. It could be when we're at the busiest, right? It could be when we're at our hungriest. It could be when just before lunchtime, or when we're there at our latest, or just after we've euthanized our favorite patient. Or maybe it's when a certain person works, right?
Andrea, there's a
yeah.
question. I was kind of waiting to see if you answered it a little bit, but her question is, what if the team, it's regarding trust. What if the team of leadership was already in place when I became the PM and I do not have trust in them because of past situations?
You don't trust a leadership team?
I think that's what she's saying, is she doesn't trust the leadership team because of the
Yeah.
past, because she got promoted and they were
burned by the same leadership team?
I believe so.
Yeah, that's rough. And so, some of the things is some transparency there, is saying, I'm having a hard time with that. And this is why, and maybe you reveal that, or maybe you don't, but just saying, I'm having a hard time with this. And so I want to be transparent with you and say, I'm having a difficult time. And I would say, because this is what's happened in the past, because I was offered a promotion and I didn't get it, because I would offered a certain schedule and I didn't get it. Sometimes when you offer why you were burned in the past, they will be transparent with you and say, you weren't given that promotion, you weren't given that raise, or you weren't done this because we didn't have enough funds that year because, whatever, blah, blah, blah. They may be able to share that with you. And it may give you some understanding behind the scenes of why it wasn't done. Sometimes they can share those things and it's insightful. Sometimes they can't just because they can't. It's a HR thing and they just can't. But sometimes when there's a communication around the areas of why the mistrust is there, it's helpful. It really is. And that's where I say that communication is such a key component. If you are working towards resolving that trust, it takes time. Of course, it's going to take time. But if you're not working towards repairing it, then I will tell you, if you're not working towards repairing it, you probably shouldn't be there, because you're not ever going to trust them if you're not working towards repairing it. It's going to be broken forever. One of the things I put in my termination letters to clients when I terminate clients, even to employees, is say, the trust has been broken. I can't repair that. We are not moving towards repairing this. You're done. You're fired. Here's your medical records. Take your medical records and go. You don't trust us. We don't trust you, right? You didn't pay your bill. You called my doctor things you shouldn't. You treated my staff poorly. You're done. And the same thing with a team member. If you stole from us or you did something, the trust has been broken. You're out. So think about that. If that trust is broken, you either need to work towards repairing it and then have that conversation, or you need to think about moving on. Because once trust is broken, you have two choices: repair it, work towards repairing it, and yes, it takes time, or don't. And if you don't, it's broken. Okay. Is there commitment for your team? Is there commitment to the mission, vision, and values and your ethics? If you don't appreciate the practice ethics, then, right, goes back to trust. If you don't trust that your practice is doing the right thing, your practice owner is making the right decisions, talk to them about it, find out what the why behind it, right? If you don't like their mission, then you're not bought into that. You probably shouldn't be working there. If the team is committed, most of the time when team members work at a practice, they work for the practice owner. They love the practice owner or the doctor that works there. They love the doctor. That's it. They're like, they work for that person because they love their medicine, because they love the way they work, their ethic, their vision for whatever it is, their passion for fill in the blank, whatever that doctor's passion is. So making sure that everybody on the team has commitment. So when we go back to having healthy conflict, we may say, this is the way I want to handle this situation, and this is the way I want to handle it. And we kind of have a little bit of, back and forth. And then we decide, okay, this is what we're going to do moving forward. We're, going to hire this person, or we're going to fire this person, or we're going to, buy this product or not buy this product. Okay. Everybody on the leadership team or everybody that needs in the practice needs to be on board with this. And there has to be commitment to this movement forward that we're going to do. And so everybody needs to be committed to this particular, what we're going to do, this charge moving forward. So if we're all going to be committed to it, then right, gung ho. If somebody's in the background sulking, well, I don't like that decision. Well, we got to get commitment. We got to get buy-in from them. Otherwise, there's one negative Nelly over there sitting in the corner, and right there, that's the mean girl group that they're going to be trying to get people on their side. So be thinking, hey, what do we need to do to gain some clarity for that person? Motivate, encourage. Let's answer your questions. Where are you at with this? What's happening over there? Is there ownership to, right, the mission, vision, values, or to this decision that we're going to move forward in this direction? And then some accountability. This is one thing I see. One of the major things that I see in practice is that there's a lack of accountability. Is there a sacred cow? Like I said earlier, there's a one person that we're walking on eggshells around, that we just don't seem to be acting appropriately around, because the one person, we can't do things right around this person, or we all have that, know what it's like to work with that sacred cow. is there equality? And I'd really stay away from the word fairness, because what you think is fair and what I think is fair is going to be different. So is it consistent? If there's a protocol or an SOP or a rule in the practice, are we consistent across the board with everybody on the team? And if we're not consistent, then there probably is going to be unequality. It's totally not a word, but I just made it up. And then we might have, area or room for a sacred cow, and that leads to, could lead to a negative, I don't want to go as far as say toxic, but it could be a toxic environment, or just some negativity that we may need to address. So be conscious of that, be careful of that. When there's a lack of accountability, it can cause some tearing down of what we're building up. So thinking about our results, what are we measuring? Is there some type of KPI that we can evaluate there? What's our done look like? If we're looking at the outcome, how do we evaluate that? And if we fall down because we don't fail, we just fall, wipe off your knees and stand up and pivot. And then always remember to celebrate. I encourage celebration journals and practices. I think what happens is we, especially through a lot of my compassion fatigue training, I realized that we have a lot of cases that when they kick our butts, cases that kick us in the teeth, we dwell on those cases. And we may only have one of those cases like one a month, right? But we dwell on those cases, and they really kick us in the teeth. We forget about all the other cases that are success cases. And I think we need to celebrate all the great cases, and we forget to do that. So when we have celebration journals, we have the things in there where any staff member can say, Susie hit her first catheter today, and Peter extracted his first, tooth today. Or I saw a Post-it note on one of my doctors. She did her first spay today, and it said, I did my first spay. And a team member wrote it for her and put it on her computer. And I said, go write that in a celebration journal, right? And then, all the different things. We sent home this one patient today, had been hospitalized for a week after eating an entire box of raisins, like big box of raisins, right? We sent home Fluffy Johnson today, or whatever it was, right? And so when we have those tough cases, I tell everybody, all right, get out the celebration journal, and everybody pass around the box of chocolates. And then we read the celebration journal. Like, we forget to celebrate all the great things that happen. So when we have the one tough case, yes, we can cry and sob and hug each other. But then I want to read the celebration journal, and I want us to remember all the great cases, all the good things that the whole team did as a whole. So we remember to celebrate as well. Okay, and wrapping up really, really late. All the things that are on there, do those things. Woohoo! I'm not going to go through them all.
Does anyone
So we see a win
that they would like to add about leadership?
Yeah, I did not go into the chat, but thank you, Melissa. So if there was things in the chat I missed, or if you guys have questions, feel free to unmute yourselves or ask them or email me. Happy to answer questions.
Elizabeth asked if you can please link the leadership book you mentioned earlier.
Absolutely. Let's see.
I did put the Pyxis website link in the chat.
Oh, great.
I had to find it, but
and I don't have a link for him, but Melissa, if you post on your YouTube, I could send you the link to put on your
Dr. Berry says, thank you very much. You got several takeaways.
Yes, thank you. Good, good, good. I'm glad. Yeah, because I picked on you all the whole time, Dr.
I
Berry.
know.
That's why I knew
Yeah.
you're the
Your face
practice owner in here.
and then you were there, and it was hard. I couldn't see everybody else because I made my screen only Andrea's face. So I just saw her first. So there's quite a few people that I'm like, oh, hey, I'm sending messages like,
Oh,
hey,
and there's Beth. Yeah, thank you guys all for coming.
Jen from Lenity's on there. I saw her. I don't know,
Yeah.
but so I will upload this to my YouTube channel over the next few days. Everybody that attended live, I will send you guys a C certificate, so you'll get credit for that. If you do not follow my YouTube channel, please feel free at South Coast Veterinary Manager 263
Oh,
and
yeah.
update. Oh,
Sorry.
well, actually, Andrea has a really cool thing. We almost
Our
forgot
surprise. I know, right?
to surprise
Um,
to everybody.
so with some help of some of my amazing colleagues, I am hosting a executive leadership workshop in March of 2026. It is a 2-day workshop for practice owners and their managers. It consists of 5 modules: human resources, legal, accounting, risk management, insurance, and tax planning and strategies. Um, and it is a great opportunity for, again, practice owners and their executive teams to come and do this type of leadership development. And we're going to be sending out, Melissa is the flyer for it. The registration is on my website. We have a what's it called? Early bird special for registration until the end of the year. We did a Black Friday and I thought that's silly. Let's do it till the end of the year. So we have an early bird special till the end of the year. That's good through December 31st for a discount. So excited to have, and we're capping it too. There's only 80 seats and they are selling out like gangbusters. So the dates are March 6th and 7th. And it is at the Synchrony building, the Care Credit building in Costa Mesa, California. 2 days. There is 5 subject matter experts. Myself, Tony Mahan from Mahan Law, Jared Pratt from Granite Peak Accounting, Grace Ursery from Vet Money Geek, and Bill Butler from Butler Insurance. So 5 super awesome modules. It's going to have a workbook designed for, custom designed for every practice that registers. You'll fill out a questionnaire. You'll get a custom designed workbook to take back with you at your practice. And then you also will have follow-up calls after it's over in 2026. You'll have follow-up calls with all the subject matter experts to help you stay on track with your workbook exercises after the workshop is over. So looking forward to sharing that. But again, grab your seats. It's filling up pretty fast. So looking forward to that. And it is on special until the end of the year. So.
And I will be emailing that to my entire webinar list to offer that to everybody, either probably later today, because I don't know if I have time to do it right after this minute. But it'll be later today that you'll receive an email from me so you can register for that for future. So thank you guys all so much for coming. I really appreciate everybody joining for the last webinar of the year. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. And let me go ahead and stop my recording.